This video will learn conditional rendering. So before going into the coding, we need to understand what is directive. So this concept of directive comes from AngularJS. In this video, we'll learn conditional rendering. So before going into the coding, we need to understand what is directive. So this concept of directive comes from AngularJS. And so directives are the special HTML attributes. So HTML attributes, if you don't know, please watch our HTML section of this video series. So directives are special HTML attributes that tell to the framework, okay, I have this particular attribute, so I have some extra features with me. Okay, and each feature or each directive have some different superpower. Okay, so in LWC programming model also we have some custom directives that let you manipulate the DOM using the markup. And in LWC we have two special directives for conditional rendering, that is if true or if false. So let's go and try to understand first if true directive. So we use this directive to render the DOM element in the template if the expression is true. So DOM is nothing, it's your HTML tree. So you can think of like if you want to hide and show some text from the screen, we use this directive, that is if true. And directives always used with the template tag. Just remember this, directives always used with the template tags. Directives are the HTML attributes that gives you the superpower to play with your HTML. And in this directive also we'll take the expression. If you see the syntax, I'm applying the directive to the template tag and then I'm checking the expression. This expression follow the same rules that we have seen in the previous videos. So the expression can be a JavaScript property. The expression can be a JavaScript object with the dot notation. You can use it. You can't use array. You can't evaluate the expression. You can't use a ternary operator. You can use the getter in the JavaScript. Okay, so this is if true directive. Let's go to our code and create or use this if true in the code. So now I'm in my VS code and I don't want to continue in the same component, otherwise it's gonna be bigger and bigger. So to understand that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create the new component, and to do that we'll go to view, command palette, create lightning web component, and our component I want is hello conditional rendering. Just remember the naming convention. I'm using the camel casing, hello conditional rendering, hit enter, take the default path, and it will create our component within the LWC folder. You can see how quickly it has been created. So again, the default files are HTML, JS, and the meta file. So let's go to our JS file and say a property. Will create a property, and I can say this property name is show is visible. I can go is visible, and I'll make it as false initially. And here in the template again, I'll create a lightning card. I'll give the title. Our title I can give conditional rendering, and within the card I can give some class for the margin. So SLDS where margin around medium. Now here we're gonna write our code. So what I want is I want a text to be visible on click of the button. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a lightning button. And lightning button will take some attributes, and if you don't know the what all attribute it takes, you can go back to our component library, and in the component library we'll search for button. I usually do this. There is nothing wrong in going and taking the code, because this is the library given by Salesforce to us to get the exact look and feel. So I'll take this button I'll take the brand one. Brand gives us blue color. Copy this. I'll come back to my VS Code. I'll paste it and I'll say, okay, we are creating a lightning button. Variant is brand. Variant is just used for giving the colors. You can use different colors based on different variant. Then I'm giving the label, and I'm giving the label show data, and title is for your accessibility. So I'll say show data. We are using a handle click action, that is on click. So on click of this button will call this method, and we are using some margin around the button left. So we are giving left margin here. And let's go to the JS and create a method handle click that gets called on the click of the button. But what we want to show or hide is, I'll say welcome to 0 to hero series. Okay, so this is the text we are showing, but there is a condition given by the client. This text should be only visible when you click on the button. So how you gonna hide this text? To do that, we're gonna use the directive that we are talking, and to use the directive we'll say template, because directives always run on the template tags, and in the template tags you have to say if true, if colon true, and the expression. So here your expression will come, and our expression is property is visible, that is initialized by false. And as we said in the slides, like if true only works when the expression evaluates to true. So when the page load, it see the property is visible is false, and it comes here and it says it's false. So whatever comes inside will not load in the browser. So we'll take our content and place it between the template. And what we want is when the user click on the button, this expression should be true and it should render on the screen. To make this value true, we need to make the property true. So we are updating the value of is visible to true. So this is how if true directive works. So if the expression is true, it will load the data in between the tags. Otherwise, it will not load the data in the HTML. So let's deploy this component. Let's go to our page. Now we have created a new component, so we need to place that component. But before that, we missed to set the meta tags. So let's go to our component and set the meta tag so that our page be visible on the app page. So I'll take this meta tag from the hello world. I'll go to hello rendering and I'll replace this. So is exposed is used so that our component is available or visible in the Salesforce, and target is these components should always visible in this page only, not on other page. You can set other targets as well, record page or the home page. So let's deploy this again. So it's deployed now. Let's go to the page, go to the gear icon, edit the page, and then we'll place our second component in the center column. So if the meta tags has been placed successfully, then you able to see your component name here. Drag this component to the middle section. Just save this and go back. So now our component is placed successfully. This is the title of our card. This is the button. By default, we are not able to show the data because our is visible property is false. And on click of that, we should able to see the data now. And now you see it's printing the data immediately. So this is how if true directive works. So let's go and understand the if false directive. So if false directive is just opposite of this, and we use this directive to render the DOM element in the template if the expression is false. So if true works if the expression is true, and if false works if the expression is false. It also holds the same same properties like expression can be a JavaScript identifier and object you can use. You can't use the ternary operator and other array methods. So let's go and see the if false directive, the code. So what I'll do here is I'll create another directive if false, and we're going to use the same property here. I'll say you can't see the data. So on load is false property is false. So this directives load the content, and the content should be in the div tag. So by default, you see you can't see the data. Please click the button. So on load, you will see you can't see the data. Please click the button. As soon as you click the button, is visible become true. So this directive works and this directive will not work. So this will be hide and this will be visible on the screen. So let's go and deploy this. So now go to the page, refresh the page. Now you can see by default be able to see the data that is under the if false directive, because is visible property is false by default, and if false works if the expression is false. And now if I click on show data, is visible property become true and our if true directive work out. So if I see, I click welcome to Zero to Hero series. So this is how if true and if false directive works. So till now we have seen the getter with this if true directive and if false directive with the property. Now we'll see with the getters. So let's go to our VS Code, and now I want input field. So I created an input field here of type text, label I'll say type hello to see the data. Okay, and we'll keep the change handler as our method name. So I'll come here, I'll create a method change handler. As soon as you type something, it will receive an event, and we'll say this dot name equal to event dot target dot value. We'll create a property name that is by default undefined because we are not initializing it with anything. And as soon as you type something, that name value gets updated with the value or the data that you are typing. Now what I want here is I want to show the data only if you have typed hello in the input field. So what I'm gonna do is I'll say hooray, you have typed correctly, and this div will only visible when the condition of our if true directive is true. Okay, and just remember I'm repeating if true directives or all the directives works with the template tags. So now we need some condition here in the or some expression that tells us okay he has typed hello and then render the text. To show this we can use getter here. So I'll say getter method name is, I can give any name. I'll say hello method. I'll give any random method name hello method, and I'll go to a JS file. I'll create a getter now. I'll say get hello method, and it will return true or false based on the condition that I'm gonna write now. So if I say this dot name equal to hello, So it will check whether you have typed hello or not. If you typed hello, this expression returns true. As soon as it receives true, it loads the data. Right, so hello method is my getter name, and getter automatically keep an eye when the value change. So as soon as the value updated here, updated value comes here and it evaluate the expression, and the expression value will come to the HTML. So let's deploy this and check this as well. So now it's deployed, and now you can see our input field is there. The label is type hello to see the data. Right now you will not able to see the data. Hooray, you have typed correctly. So if I start typing and I completed hello world, so as soon as you type hello, it immediately show the data, because getter gets called. It evaluates the expression. It sees, okay, whatever you have typed is hello or not. If yes, it immediately print. And as soon as I change this letter to something else, it will go off. And we are checking everything small. If I type capital hello, it will not work out. So it will only works when you type the correct letter with correct casing. So this is how conditional rendering work with a getter, and you're gonna use this approach many places. So always remember, you can use getters, you can use the properties, and you can use objects. Anything you can use it here. Other thing to remember here is, in JavaScript there are many falsy values. 7 falsy or 8 falsy values are there. So falsy values, so if your property is, suppose your property name is X and it has value 0, it is a falsy value. Or your property has a value called false, that is also a falsy value. If it is undefined, that is also falsy value. If it is null, that is also falsy value. If it is empty quotes, this is also a falsy value. Which means, if any time in your property these value exist and you use if true, it always be false, even though it has some value 0, but your if true will always be false, because 0 is a falsy value in JavaScript. And similarly, false, undefined, null, empty string, big O notation, all are falsy values. So just read about it. I already explained in our JavaScript lecture. Okay, so now we know the conditional rendering, how we can hide and show the HTML. So in the next video, we're gonna talk about looping in HTML. So I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we'll learn about template looping. So template looping is a very interesting topic because till now everybody has written the loop either in Java or JavaScript and .NET, but nobody has written the loop in the HTML. And there are many scenarios in which we have to render the same set of elements with mostly the same styling with different data in the HTML. And to solve this issue, we use template looping. So basically, template looping is the loop that runs in the template, and in our case, template is HTML. So LWC give us two powers, or I would say two directives to solve this issue. First one is for each directive, second is the iterator directive. So let's go and see the first one, that is for each loop. So as we already know, if it is a directive, it always run with a template tag. You can see in the syntax, the for each loop runs always with a template tag, and in the for each, first parameter you need to pass is the array on which you want to run the loop. So for the most important thing to remember in this, the template loop only works in the array, not on the object and not on the primitive data type. It should always be an array. So to run the loop, we need first the data is in the form of array, and the whole data you will bind it to the for each. Then when the loop runs, it pick one item at a time. So that item name we called it as current item, and you can use the index also in the loop if it's required. But these two things are mandatory for each attribute and the for item attribute. So if you look at this table, the for each takes the array as an input. Then the current item is the value of the current element, and the current item is an alias and can be anything or any name. And for item hold the current item. So basically for item is the attribute that takes each item at a time, and this name is the alias. You can give any name. Okay. Then for index is an attribute that takes index property, and index is the current element index in an array. So if there are two or three values in the array, so first time index is 0, then 1, then 2. Like this the for each loop works. And before writing the loop, we need to understand a very important concept of key. So whenever you run the template loop, your first element within the loop should have the key attribute. So the key is a special string attribute you need to include to the first element inside the template when creating the list of elements. Key helps the LWC engine identify which item have changed or added or removed. So basically it helps you for the performance optimization. Instead of running each node and parsing through all the nodes to figure out what's happening, it's better you give the key and it will figure it out. Okay, this particular element has been changed, removed, added. So this is just for the LWC engine behind the scene. And the keynote here is key must be a number or a string. It can't be an object, and you cannot use the index as a value for the key. So if you not understand anything, we'll see now in the VS Code. So let's go to our VS Code, close your all windows, and now we'll create a new component. I'll go to view, select command palette. I'll select create lightning web component. I'll give my component name looping. I'll hit enter, take the default path. It will create the looping component, and that component is placed under the LWC folder. So the first thing we can say, we want to make this expose true because we want this element or this component to be available in the Salesforce. Apart from that, we can add targets, and targets are important for which page you want to restrict this component. So I am taking only one target because we have created only one page that is of type app. So I'll give the target name here as lightning app page. So now our component is ready to deploy, but this is an empty component. We haven't written anything in the HTML and in the JS. So let's add some properties to this class looping or to the component. And I can say, because we know loop only work in the array, so let's create a property of type array. So I'll say a property name car list, and car list can have different name. I can say Ford, I can say Audi, I can say Maruti. We are creating the list of cars. Okay, and other names are Hyundai, you can say Mercedes, any name you can add to this list. So this is an array. Now we want this list to be shown on the screen, and to do that we need a loop, right? And that loop should be a template loop, because that loop we want to show on the HTML, right? So first of all, before writing the loop, we'll go with the standard structure. I'll create a card, lightning card. Lightning card will take an title. The title will be for each loop. So we are talking right now about for each loop. And now here we're gonna add some heading. I'll create a div so that our text inside the card will not touch the boundaries of the card. And I can give the class name as SLDS. I'll give the margin of medium size. And this, now here we're gonna write our code. So now I have the list, I have the card ready. I want to loop the list and show on the card, and to do that we need a template tag, because our directives runs on the template tag, and our directive name is for each. Then we have another attribute for the for each loop is for item, and I close my template tag. And for each runs only on the array, so our property is already an array. We'll take this name and map it to for each, and we are telling for each you have to run the loop on the car list, and I want the each car from the car list as called as car. So this is an alias, this can be anything that you want. So let's print the car name inside the div, and as these are individual item in the list, so it will go in the inside the expression bracket, and it will print each car name. Now you see it showing an error, missing key for the element div inside of iterator. So as I said, each loop, either it's a for each loop or the iterator loop, you need to pass a key attribute to your first element or to the parent element within the loop, and this should be always be unique. So our car names are unique. I'll say okay, car will go as a key. So key is very important from performance point of view, so that engine can able to understand what list has been changed or what list has been rendered. So now our component is ready. So I'll repeat it again. So I created a list of cars. We are using the for each loop. Here for each loop will takes array as an input. So car list is our array. Then we need to use the for item attribute that pick up one item from the loop at a time. So we are saying each item we called it as a car, and that car we are printing inside the div. So the loop runs, suppose there are 5 items, so loop runs 5 times and it renders 5 times the divs, and the key should be unique, and key is very important from Salesforce performance point of view during the loop. So we are giving a unique name here. The car is unique, that's why we are just mapping the car as it is. And let's deploy this component. And to deploy this, I am running the same command, sftx force source push, and I'll hit enter, and it throws an error. Let's see what's the error, and it's saying you have invalid targets. Okay, let's go whether I have entered the correct target or not. Here it should be underscore underscore. So now the target is correct. Let's deploy this again. So now the component has been deployed. Let's go to our org and let's open the app again quickly. Our app name is 02 Hero in LWC. So let's place our component. Now you guys already know how to place the component. Click on edit page. And we'll search for our component name, that is looping. You can see on the left hand side looping, and just drag it below the conditional rendering. So now let's save it and go back. So now you see our loop is working fine and it's printing the data. So it's all printing all the car names in the list format, and it's working totally fine. So our for each loop is running perfectly. You can add the style if you want based on your need. So there are some styles if you want, like if I go to our style lightning design system, I'll make it a little bit bigger. So lightning design system is a library, as I already mentioned. Here you can search for the design, search for vertical list. So select the vertical list. Here you will see all the list design without border, with dots, whether you want with the links and all. So I'll click on the right hand side around with space. So I can show the list in the box with the border. You just need to say show code, copy the code. Let's go back to our component, and in the HTML we'll just print it below the div. We'll take this car as it is. We'll remove all the li list except one, and within that we'll just replace it with a car. We'll take out the key and apply it to the ul element and remove our previous div. So we just copy paste the card that has already a classes that brings the border and the space, and instead of div now we are using ul and li, and it gives the border. So let's deploy it again and see the output. So now you can see the output. The lists are coming with the border and with proper spacing. So you can play around with the styling, and we'll talk more about the styles in the style section. So let's go to our second topic of this video, that is iterator loop. So iterator loop is also a looping for the templates, but it's a bit different from the for each, and the syntax is also little bit different. So to apply a special behavior to the first or the last item in the list, we prefer iterator over for each. So many times in the interview, people ask when you prefer iterator over for each. So whenever you have a use case in which you want to attach something before the loop and after the loop, so like on the before the first element and on the last element, then we go with the iterator. Its syntax is like iterator keyword as an attribute, and as it's a directive, it also run with the template tag. Iterator is the attribute. Then iterator name. Iterator name is the alias that you give or choose for the each item. Like in the for each, we were having the current item. Here it's the iterator name and the array on which you want to run the loop. So I'll go through the table quickly. Iterator, it is a keyword to tell template that it's an iterator loop. Then the iterator name. Iterator name is the value of the current element in the loop. Iterator name is an alias and can be any name. Like in previous loop, we saw car was our name, alias name. So this is the same thing. And the array. Array is the data on which we want to apply loop. And let's see what all the extra properties iterator gives us. So earlier we were just using directly the current item into our loop, but here to access the property we have a different approach. We will say first property is value. So if you want to fetch the value, you need to use iterator name dot value and then your property name. Then index is the same thing like iterator name dot index. If you want to show something on the first iterator, then you used to call it iterator name dot first. It's a boolean value indicating whether this item is the first item or not. Similarly, we have a last property, a boolean value indicating whether this item is the last item in the list or not. So if it's a bit confusing, we'll go to the demo and see how iterator loop works. So now I am back to my VS Code. I'm using the same component, and this time instead of taking the simpler array, we'll go with the array of object, and let's create a new property, and we called it as CO list. So we will create an array of objects. So each object will be a CO details. So I'll say ID1, company Google, and name of the CO is Sundar Pichai. Likewise, I'll add the other name. So that will be Apple, and the CO name is Tim Cook. Then the third name we can pick it up as Mark Zuckerberg. Company name is Facebook, and the CO name is Mark Zuckerberg. And the fourth name will go till 4 only, and the fourth name we can pick it up as Amazon.com, and the CO name is Jeff Bezos. We can change .com to Amazon. So now we have a list of 4 COs, and we want to render the details on the screen. But there is a catch. We want to add something before the loop and after the loop. I'll show you. So let's copy paste the cards again and paste it below, and I'll call it as iterator loop. I'll replace everything from the card. I'll just keep the template tag because we're going to use the template tag for running the loop. And now iterator loop works with the iterator keyword. Our keyword is iterator. This tells to the template, okay, I'm an iterator loop. Then colon, you need to define your each item alias. So I'll say each alias as CO, and where you want to run the loop. So I want to run the loop on the property CO list. I'll take the list and say, okay, you have to run the loop on the CO list, and each item in the object, call it as CO. So if it is an each item, so each item in this case is an object. Okay, don't get confused. And now first thing, we'll go with the simple loop. We'll say, we'll take this same UL tag and the li tag, and we'll give the li tag the class that we have given above, slds item, and to the UL I'll just copy paste the same class that's giving some styling. And now we know we have to give the key property because it's a loop. So let's go and wrap our whole component with a div, because key should be to the parent element. So I'm wrapping the whole code with the div, and I'm giving the key property to this. Now if I see here, what is the unique thing in this? Name, company, ID, all are unique mostly, so we can pick up any, but ID is more relevant. Okay, so we can use CO dot value. So in iterator, value property is important with the each item. So CO dot value, now we are gonna pick it up ID. So if you are using name from the object, name, likewise you can do. So now we are running the loop on the CO list. Each item is a CO, and we are using the ID for the key, and we are printing the CO name. Okay, and I want my CO name to be little bolder, so I'll use the strong tag. Strong tag is to make the content little bolder. And I'll say CO dot value dot, I'll say company I want to be the bolder, and the other thing to be name little dull. So I'll say CO dot value dot name. So we are printing company name and the CO name. I'll give little space, and let's deploy this and see how it works. Right now I haven't touched any other property like first and last. I just want to show you can achieve the same thing what you are achieving with the for each with the iterator as well. So let's deploy this. And it's deployed now. Let's go to our browser. So I have just refreshed the browser. Now you can see iterator loop is the card, and in the strong tag we are adding the company name, so that is little bolder, and our your name is printing along the company name, and it's with the same styling and it's looping. But what I want is on the top, I want to show something. This is the CEO list, and at the bottom also I want to show something. Okay, to do that we're gonna use the first and the last property given by the iterator loop. So let's go to our VS Code, and here what I'm gonna do is I'll say before li tag I'll create a div, and I'll say if true, show this only when CO dot first. So first is the property that is given by iterator for the each element, and that tells us okay, this is the first iteration within the loop. And I'm saying show the content between this div only when CO dot first is true, and if it is true, you already know how if true directive works. So it will print the element on the screen. So I can print something like strong tag, and within the strong tag I can say list of top companies and their CEOs. This is we can print, and we already know that directives work with the template tag. So let's introduce the template tag, and within that we'll print our first div that we want to show only when the first iteration comes into the picture. And we can add some styling here, SLDS box and SLDS theme underscore shade. So this gives some gray background to the box that we are creating. This class will create the box, and this class will give some shade to our header. I can call it as header because we want to show it only once. Let's copy paste the same thing, and let's go below and paste it again. And I want to show something when it's the last element. So you use the last property, and in the last property what we can show is you can write anything. Thanks for reading the list. And let's deploy this and see how it behaves. So now on the output you can see we have the gray color before the loop starts and after the loop's end, and we are showing list of top companies and their CEO. I just added a class so that we can differentiate which list is the first, and that is with the gray background. So this is how iterator loops work. Okay, and many people ask me, I'll try to cover that as well, like within the for each loop how array of objects works. And to do that I'll do one more thing. I'll just copy paste this list below this again, and I'll say for each loop with array of object, because most of the time from the Apex you're gonna get the data in the array of object format only. I'll just remove this. I'll keep it as it is, leave it, and we'll create some. We're gonna use the same CEO list to loop with the for each. So I'm running the for each loop on the for each list. I want this each item to be called it as list instead of CEO. I'll call it as list just to show you guys you can give any name. And now on the key I want list.id as my unique key, because id is the unique property in all the objects, and this is an object, that's why we are using dot notation. And on the screen we want to show it as list.name. It will print the name, and after that you just give the space and say list.company. So it will print the company name. Make sure these keys names are correct, then only it will print. So the only difference in the for each, you use dot notation when you are using array of objects, because objects property you can access with the dot notation. So let's deploy this quickly and see the output. So now you can see the output for each loop with array of objects, and now it's rendering the content perfectly. We haven't given any style of bold and all, but it's rendering it, the name and the company name. So this is how for each loop works with the array of objects. This is how it works only with the array of strings. This is how the iterator loop work, and this looping is very much important along with the other fundamentals that we discussed throughout your LWC career, and we're going to use all the concept very much. And now from the next section onward, we'll go into the multiple components. We'll see the component composition in the next video. So I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we will build a quiz app in LWC. So till